Hey, what's up everyone? I am Blue, and today I wanted to talk about something really important. I have been getting a lot in-game, sometimes through been discussions on some of the videos, but I really wanted to talk about Feral and really kind of dig into the numbers of this expansion and give you what Blizzard wants us, how do they want us to play this? Right now we are extremely weak. We have received buffs on the forums. We have not received them in games. How is that going to affect our rotation? What is our rotation going to look like in game? How are we going to be for a raid? And I want to discuss all those with you guys today. So thanks for being with us. I want you to stick with us. If you like this video, please leave the thumbs up. But let's get down to it. So I'm going to ask a few of the questions that I've been asked. Um, okay, the buffs. Will buffs make Feral viable for raids? Right now, the 20% buff is not going to be a lot of damage. And it's not really going to help. It's going to make us a little bit stronger than we are right now. Viable for raids. I think if you don't have a guild that you're running with, it is going to make it difficult. Okay? Um, it is going to make it difficult. You are going to still be weak. I think Ferals are actually going to be stronger than Boomkins. In some of my videos I said, hey, we might need to switch to Boomkin. That's not the case. Stay with it. Stick with your Ferals. Ferals are going to be much stronger, so that's good for us. Something else that's not good for us is, as I've been noticing in the expansion, we scale. I think a lot of our abilities are going to scale really well, but right now, at the beginning of the expansion, our gear is crap. Our agility, we don't have enough agility for our spells. And I think in-game content, we're going to be strong. But right now, we're very weak, and we just got to see how it is. If you do get gear, though, for normals, heroic, and mythic, I think we're going to see a huge jump in our damage. It's very difficult for me um, to put all the other specs in the game and compare them to Feral. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do. I know that we will scale very well. And this is what I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about in the later videos. Okay, something else. How will the buffs help if only they're buffing our AoE? Okay, so I've had a few questions like that. Oh, how are they going to buff our A? How is this really going to help us in raids if they're only buffing Brutal Slash and they're only buffing our Thrash? Well, there's going to be a switch. A lot of you, if you did not play Feral in Legion, or especially the end of Legion when I played it, it's going to be a little bit strange, but our rotation is going to change a lot. Our rotation right now it's just single target we shred, and that makes sense, and we save our Brutal Slash to our AoE. That's not the case anymore. Um, when our buff hits, most likely we will be brutal slashing everything. We'll be brutal slashing for AoE, and we'll be brutal slashing for single target. It's just going to be a rotation. It's just going to be one rotation we do. Maybe we'll throw in more thrashes for our AoE rotation, but we're still going to be doing brutal slash. And I know it's difficult to understand, but it is. It's going to scale higher. Brutal Slash, the ability, is scales. It scales a lot higher with agility. Right now, you don't see that because, like I said, our agility is really, really small right now. But I will show you. I made a little chart that it scales. I'm going to show you all of our abilities and how they're scaling into the game. And it'll kind of give you a guess of how your rotation needs to be and what you need to be doing, what talents you need to be doing, how our raid's going to look at. But trust me on this one. So single target, brutal slash. It's just the same kind of rotation, except we're going to be brutal slashing whenever we can to fill up our combo points. And this is also going to help us with our energy problem. It's not going to be a huge, here we are, we're no longer energy starved, because that's not going to be the case. We're still going to be energy starved. But brutal slash is 30 energy versus a shred, which is 40 energy. It's not a big difference, but it is. If we're talking about a fight or raid fight 5 minutes long or so, we're gonna be being able to sneak in a lot more abilities because we're using brutal slash off cooldown. So it's gonna help our damage. It's gonna help a little bit of our energy, not a lot. We still need a greater haste increase to be doing that. We need more haste, and we'll see how that goes with the gear that drops and the next raid. Okay, what should we do for raids? This kind of goes to my point. Stay feral. Do not switch to Boomkin. Um, if you can find a spot doing Guardian, a lot of our gear works for Guardian. If you have been specializing in your gear, if you've been getting BIS gear, that might make it a little bit more difficult because we really avoid mastery. I still have a few pieces that are mastery. We have 1 week, maybe 2 weeks, depending on when you're going to do your next raid, to get some mastery gear. So if you get it, if you find it, especially rings, you'll be fine. You will actually be a really good tank, and you'll be able to survive through this period um, where it's kind of like like where we're just weak and we're waiting for our skills. So now I want to talk to you. A lot of people they're really confused about the brutal slash. They don't understand it, and I want to talk to you about ability scaling. And this is the first expansion that I found um, that we can actually do this. We can actually figure out. We can do a little computing ourselves about the scaling. And that the reason of that is because of our headgear, our shoulders, our chest. They don't have any stats on them. They have agility, stamina. Okay? What we care about when we're talking about our ability scaling is we care about agility. That's our main stat, right? Agility affects the magnitudes of our abilities. So it increases our abilities damage. We don't want to see how mastery affects it. We don't want to see how crit affects it. I mean, they're not very hard to compute, but we just want to see straight agility. And it's very interesting because we can do that. All we have to do is take off our agility gear, anything that is affected just by agility. So I take off my trinkets. Those are straight agility. Take off my chest. For this example, I actually kept my shoulders, and the reason is because it has a slight amount of mastery to it. So I didn't want that to mess up our data at all, but it does. So I kept that on, and it's not a big deal. So we have 4 different pieces that we can stack on. So what you're gonna do, and if you can do this all through the expansion, and if you need to cancel out this, you can just go and have it, go down to 0. You can pay for it to have no traits in it, and then you can redo the traits later. That could be something you do. But we can do this all through the expansion, which is really interesting. If we are wondering how our abilities are scaling, how does Blizzard, and what I mean by this, how does Blizzard want us to play the game? Through the game, they already know the end content. They know what a rotation is gonna look like. A lot of us ferals are a little confused right now. So what we can do, take off these gears. So I'm gonna basically assume my character is naked. Okay, so as naked, what are my spells? And I have it up for you right here. Okay, so right here I have Rake. I'm going to have all my bleeds, my bleed damage. So I have my Rake, my Rip, my Thrash. Moonfire, we're going to assume this is a bleed, right? It's 0. How much damage are we doing? Okay, so I wrote that all down. So now we're going to put on one of our trinkets. We're going to put on, and after that, figure out the data, put on second trinket, put on a helmet. This is, helmet is 411 agility. The chest, 411 agility. And we're going to look at those stats. Let me move here so I don't AFK out of here while we talk about this. So here it is, the data. You can see here my Rake, 1 trinket, 2 trinkets, a headpiece, and a chest piece. On the left-hand side, you're going to see all these numbers. This is my total agility increase, okay? And then right here, we're going to start computing. So what is the difference between my 0 stats, and my first trinket? Okay, we have a 25% increase in our damage from here. Okay, as you can see here, this is Rake, so this first one is actually the initial damage, and then the second one, this is greater. This is your bleed damage, right? So we have a 25% increase in our initial damage and a 1.2%, 2.8% increase in our bleed. Okay, and this goes on right here. We can continue. The data looks the same. At the end, I don't know why, if it's just a complete set, it's always doing this to me where my numbers increase by quite a bit. But we can still see that Rake is about, our total, for initial damage, our total is about 29%, and our dot damage is 1.52%. Okay, so every agility you get, it's scaling 1.52%. Not bad, that's pretty good. Okay, so now let's look at Rip. Rip, we look at our total, we go through everything, our total is about 2.61%. That's pretty good. So Thrash, very small damage. Our initial damage is 0.12%, and our dot is 0.44%. Really minimal. Moonfire, on the other hand, also very minimal, which is interesting. And then, okay, the main one right here, Shred and Brutal Slash. This is just going to solve all the problems, because some of you think like, oh, single target, I'm never going to Brutal Slash. You will. You'll start doing it if you want to increase your damage. Like I don't have a lot of gear right now, but just with the gear, we can see here 0.48% versus 0.75%. Okay? So that means when you start getting the gear, when you start going into the new raid, this is going to be huge. The difference, the damage difference, is going to start getting really big. The 0.75 versus the zero point 0.5, it's going to start, making its way ahead, and you're going to see that, and you're going to want to use this single target. So there it is, you guys. I really hope that helped. If you guys want to see this, pause the screen, look at it. How do I feel now for seeing that rake damage is really high, 1.52%, as well as rip damage? Because these are really high. These are scaling really well. Does that mean later on in the game we will change to mastery? Being right now we are haste and crit, or haste and verse, as our main stats. Will we switch? It's hard for me to tell, because Blizzard made the game now where ferals, we do so much auto attack. So it's really hard to figure out, hey, if I increase my haste, I'll be auto attacking more. What would the difference be between auto attacking less and my bleeds doing more damage? It's hard to figure out right now. I think through the expansion we will be haste. That will be our main stat, and the reasoning for that is because our auto attack is so high, because our energy regen is really poor without haste, and also I don't think the one tick off rip, just pouring a crap ton of mastery in and increasing our rip as much as we can, I still don't think that would be smart, because I think increasing our damage of brutal slash through crits or brutal slash and threads through crits, would do better in the long run, just because we put a rake on and it stays on for a while. Especially without haste, it's going to stay on there for a while. It might be a huge damage, increase to the rake and that rip, but in between, those spells that we do in between, I think those are going to be overcoming eventually, and it's just like, hey, I'm going to want those spells in between there to do the most damage. And that's kind of how it is now. Our auto attack damage does the most damage. Our rake and rip, it's there, you know. So, like increasing that, it's just like, yeah, it'd be nice, but it's not going to be overwhelming. They're not going to make it to the point where rake and rip is doing so much damage, because our class would feel empty. It wouldn't be very difficult. It's like, okay, you put your rake, you put your rip on, maybe you even have you spec into Savage Roar, so they do even more damage. Sure. Now, what's the difference between you and someone else? It's like, what you do in between. Well, if there's no damage, if the damage doesn't really matter in between, maybe you're brutal slashing, maybe you're, shredding. If it doesn't really matter, then it's just like, it makes the class kind of feel empty. It's just like, okay, do whatever it takes to get to the next rip. Do whatever it takes to have enough energy to redo that rake. Anyways, I really hope that helped, because there is a little bit of question with feral druids, and we are questioning what are we supposed to do, and I think it was a little yucky at the beginning. Yucky, sorry. For understanding what we're doing, how we're supposed to play this game. Are we supposed to be doing mastery? Are we supposed to be just ripping everything? Are we supposed to putting rake on everything? That's not the case. It's going to show that eventually it's not the case. As we scale a little bit more, we are going to be doing more brutal slashes and more just attacks without bleeds that are doing a lot of damage. And then of course we have the bleeds on the side, which help raise our damage a little bit more. But that's it. I hope that helped. And if you have any questions, please leave comments. I would love to answer comments, and I love reading your comments. But I hope that helps a lot. Good luck in the next raid. I will be putting out content of Feral Druid. I'm going to be running Feral Druid. I'm in a guild. I have a spot. They're not going to kick me, fortunately for me. So they're going to have to deal with my damage. I think we're going to scale. Do I think I'm going to scale well compared to a hunter? A Beastmaster hunter? I think they need to raise up our scaling. They need to raise up our base damage. but that's me. But please stay tuned for the content. See how this all unfolds, and it'll be fun. We can learn together. Take it easy, guys. I'm Blue. Take it easy, guys. Please leave a like if you liked it. Subscribe if you want more content. And that's it. Have a good day.